Hello, reading from the blog Wandering Wilbo. Biking is a way of life in New Orleans. The streets were made for coaches and horses, and a surprising number of carriages travel the streets of the French Quarter. Cars lose their usefulness on streets that flock with people. Even off Bourbon Street, the streets flock with people. Royal Street is both street and sidewalk. Decatur is also a street and a sidewalk. A car is a boat anchor on a street that is both street and sidewalk. A bicycle can slide through the gaps left on a narrow street by a set of four friends walking side by side quite easily. A bike can slow down until balance is almost impossible and let the pedestrians pass. A bike can be tied up where a car cannot park. The only vehicle that has an advantage is the police car. An officer just sounded his klaxon at a group of pedestrians, and the sea of pedestrians parted like the Red Sea. A bike has a huge weakness, though. Last night I was horrified to see a bike locked up near the cathedral, fair and square. Ordinary really, but someone had popped up the bike seat and made off with it. A rider would have to ride home standing up on the pedals. Not impossible, but quite uncomfortable even for a strong cyclist. Finding a bike seat to replace it might be a costly quest. I've taken to passing my cable through a loop in my bike seat and then through the frame. I've added a second lock to secure tires and frame to the rack. I am even sporting around on a cheap bike. It won't cost me too much to replace it. Far less than the going street rate of $2.50 American for a refurb with parts guaranteed to be legit. I had a talk with Alex, who has helped recover hundreds of stolen bicycles. He's famous for teaming up with bike shops and the police to use social media to create a dragnet. The only place to sell a hot bike for good money is inside the community that Alex has connected so as to discourage the selling of hot bikes. He rents and sells bikes out of a shop by the Friendly Bar on Marigny Street. He had two refurbs to sell, a class above a mere used bike for sale. He totally rebuilds his refurbs, even repacking the hubs. He uses only parts from suppliers he can trust. That's why only two at $2.50 each awaited my shopping 3 days ago. In my hometown of Muskegon, I bought a new bike that I still miss for $65. I contemplated loading up a U-Haul full of Muskegon bikes for driving to NOLA. Alex asked, "Can you prove your sources to be legit?" I am pretty sure that I can. Bike theft doesn't occur as often in Muskegon. It's just not worth it. My guy in Muskegon has a barn full of bikes he has been selling openly for years. He goes to police auctions, which clear up a bike's title. Or so I have supposed. Alex handed me his card. Let me know if you go home and can fill up a truckload. I began to calculate a break-even point with a U-Haul rental. It probably only looks easy. Some men have many bikes and no home. A man approached me at Royal and Peter Street, mounted on a bicycle. His bike would fetch $400 on the second-hand market. He hit me up for money. I give alms to street people, but only when I'm flush, and a bit of good luck calls for paying it forward. I had been panhandled relentlessly that day. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. That phrase ends most panhandling conversations, he persisted. I'm a veteran, he said. Give me some change. He seemed indignant. I support veterans' charities. I remember once buying a round of drinks for a woodwind quintet in Air Force uniform on the pleasure boat called the Port City Princess. But this man was shaking me down. There's a fine line between a panhandling and a stick-up. He had crossed it. I didn't say, "Did you fail survival training during boot camp?" I said, "Please, move along." He charged me on his bicycle, and I got out of his way. Then I saw him get right into the face of a street musician named Samantha Pearl, who had to stop playing to listen to his hard sell. She frowned. She grimaced. She had dressed in a tweedy jacket and a skirt outfit, touched up her makeup and her lipstick. An aggressive man panhandling on a bike was hijacking her show. I pointed this out to a security guard assigned to keep the peace outside of Roos's Market. He walked over to the scene and yelled at the man, "Hey, cut that out!" The man pedaled away on that old but nice bicycle and yelled at me, glaring. I couldn't make out what he was saying. I pedaled over to Frenchman Street just to be safe. When I returned an hour later, Samantha Pearl was packing up. Slow night, but she had made her plan of $20 an hour. She had an album project to fund and a tour beginning in Europe to also bankroll. She was her own label and backer, and she also had to make $1,000 in rent monthly while she was saving for her plans. Slow night, she said, but the French Quarter is my home. The French Quarter might not be my home, and yet it is the most dreamlike place for cycling. I came out of Roos's later that night after a bit of shopping. My bike was chained up. However, my bike had toppled to the ground. It's those falls that knock a new bike out of tune.